We are going to play the best 11 as much as humanly possible after this bye.
Week 2, he was a bust. He was awful. He was this. He was that. Travis Hunter and those Jaguars are coming out of the bye week. And, it's a bit bittersweet. At the top of the season, everything seemed to be going their way. Had a lot of wins, not a lot of losses, but a lot of question marks when it came to not only the utilization of Travis Hunter, but that offense as a whole. There's a lot of questions about old T-Law. He's paid a lot of money to make a lot of plays, and sometimes he is, and sometimes he's not. Travis Hunter, rather, hadn't been showing up the way that you would want a number 2 pick to show up. Now, some people put it on their coaches, some people put that on Travis himself, and also BTJ, the certified number 1 wide receiver, not looking like a certified number 1 wide receiver. So let's get into it. As they come out of the bye week, the big conversation, which I was pretty interested in, is that Travis Hunter is going to become cornerback 1 and wide receiver 1. Deion's been asking for it. I think he might just get it. So we're going to watch a few things here. We're going to start with Liam Cohen, speaking about what he wants to do coming out of the bye week. And then we're going to get into some ESPN things, some underdog things, some fantasy projections, as well as some rumors and stats about where Travis Hunter has been so far. So let's hear it from the head Cohen in charge about what they're going to do coming out of the bye week.
I think that is absolutely going to be a part of the conversation this evening with both sides of the football. I thought that there was some definite flashes yesterday in terms of on offense specifically. He had a great pass breakup as well on defense. And we are going to play the best 11 as much as humanly possible after this bye. Like we've kind of gotten a sample size, as you mentioned, a sample size of everything, the totality of the first 7 weeks of every position, but specifically with him. There was definitely some really good things the other night, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. There's still a lot of things that need to be cleaned up and corrected. And then we've got to just make sure we're playing the best guys at all times and see what that looks like. So that will 100% be a part of this evaluation and conversation over the next few days here.
I want to be honest because I have, obviously, me being a Deion Sanders guy, I've been one of the more vocal people about the underutilization of Travis Hunter. And as someone who keeps that stance and will keep remaining that stance, hey, just give the ball to Travis Hunter. I do want to, me, I'm the devil's advocate guy, right? I do want to give some sort of credit when it comes to. And in that, I have to say that, early on, we heard the reportings of the way that we're going to utilize Travis Hunter is we're going to have to figure things out. We're going to work through some things. And on top of that, he also had an injury coming out of the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, too. So I do want to live in a world where, the same Jaguars team that introduced Travis Hunter with such open arms, that was very in on doubling down on what he can and believing that he's going to be a both ways player. I think we also have to give them credit to them not forcing it too much, right? Not trying to grind his body into the ground. Hey, it's a long season. You're gonna hear me say that a lot as we get into in the season, especially the college season starts ending and we start getting the playoffs, and it's like, oh yeah, it's only like week 14 for we you know what I'm saying, like NFL, you got some meaningful games still, in the same time that other leagues are wrapping up. So I don't think that I think the panic and the questions were warranted of saying like, hey, what are y'all going to do to get him more invested, or not more invested, but more included into the offensive scheme or just the football scheme in general. But at the same time, now there's plenty of time for them to make up for maybe not the wrongs, right? But maybe execute the plan that they wanted. And maybe the plan was to walk it slow and to slowly get to the point that we are now. And now we're just unleashing the beast, because it seems like although Liam Cohen, and the head coach has got to, they got to have their coach speaks. It sounds like a lot of people outside of the building have a lot to say about the impact Travis Hunter is going to have post-bye week.
Well, I think he's now the number one wide receiver in Jacksonville. You know, leading into the season, Brian Thomas was supposed to be. He was supposed to take his game to a new level. He hadn't done that, and he's been a disappointment. Well, Travis Hunter is starting to really show up in the passing game. You saw him against the Rams get a shot down the field for a touchdown. And I'm hearing that he's going to end up being the number one wide receiver. They're going to focus the offense on him. And when you look to the other side of the ball, they need him at cornerback. He's their best corner. He's their best corner. He's their best receiver. You make a move to go get a guy like that in the draft, it's time you start using him at both. And I think he's going to play more and more on both sides of the ball. It wouldn't shock me to see him play almost every snap on both sides of the ball.
Hey, and if Coach Prime had it, that's the way that he would have it set up. You feel me? So I think that's nothing but positive news. But I also think it's interesting that, you know, within these weeks, we've seen the evolution of what happens when you find the way to prioritize him and you find a way to get him the ball. And not only are we seeing that, but now we're seeing that there's clearly rumblings of, oh, he's the guy. And then also, if you add on to Miss Rossini tweeting out the fact that the Jaguars are listening to trade calls for Brian Thomas Jr., I think it's bigger than just being the number one wide receiver. I think he's about to take over for the Jaguars. But let's hear it from Underdog.
I know it doesn't feel like it, but Travis Hunter now leads the team in receptions and is second in receiving yards at nearly 300. Based on what Liam Cohen said immediately after this past week and heading into the bye, it looks like Hunter is going to be a significant player in the offense going forward. So don't be surprised if Hunter starts getting wide receiver one treatment from the Jaguars in the season's second half. He can make such an impact on this team as a wide receiver, but that needs to be in two wide receiver sets. I just don't know if the plan that they had in place in the preseason is now going to be the plan heading into week 9. And it shouldn't be, because to me, that plan is limiting him and then overall your team's success and the impact that he can make on the wins and losses.
Early on, there's a lot more choice routes in the offense, which I think is kind of underselling his value as a wide receiver, and then he just was not playing enough wide receiver snaps to actually showcase his talent. So if we're saying these things, Jacksonville's also saying these things. I do think that Travis Hunter is going to be more fantasy relevant for the back half of the year.
We always, hey, so all the people who've been complaining and calling Travis a bust, right, because y'all play so much fantasy, do not run back and say that he's great. And speaking of fantasy, since that's all y'all wanted, y'all called it week 2, he was a bust, he was awful, he was this, he was that. But let's look at some stats, because y'all don't watch football and y'all also don't look at it. Like, at least look at some stats. At least be a box score warrior, please, right? So this is Tony Homez Esquerno. He does some NFL statistics and stuff, and this is from Next Gen Stats, NFL Next Gen Stats, and it says Jaguars wide receiver cornerback Travis Hunter has run 9,663 total yards on the field this season, the most in the NFL by almost 500 yards. So we're going to speak to that, right? So and deeper into this was an excerpt from an ESPN article speaking about Travis becoming wide receiver run. So reading it between the lines, it looks like Hunter is going to be a significant player in the offense going forward. That's what Cohen said leading into last Sunday's game against the Rams. And then Hunter led the Jaguars in targets and catches, 8, and receiving yards, 101, while playing a season high 64 snaps. He now leads the team in receptions with 28 and second in receiving yards with 298. So don't be surprised if Hunter starts getting the wide receiver one treatment from the Jaguars in the season's second half. And that's partly due to his playmaking and run after the catch ability, but also because Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't played to that level all season. Tom is tied for the NFL lead with 5 drops with 3 other players through week 7 per ESPN research. And there have been multiple instances where he has appeared to alligator arm a pass or shy away from contact. We had 3rd down drops against Seattle Seahawks and the Rams, and a 4th down drop against the Cincinnati Bengals. That would have given the Jaguars a 1st and goal late in the 4th quarter. How this impacts Hunter's role on defense isn't yet clear, but it's notable Hunter played only 12 defensive snaps against the Rams. He had a pass breakup against Davante Adams. We watched that in depth. After playing 25 and 22 snaps on defense the previous 2 games. So that's what it's looking like from an impact standpoint. But what does it look like from a rating standpoint? Obviously, we got to do defense and offense. PFF has him on the receiving side, 28th in snaps, right? So he's at the bottom of the league in total passing snaps that he's even taken. So we got to remember that. And on top of that, he's 28th isn't the bottom, but because it's a lot more wide receivers, because I was going to say, and he's also near-ish the bottom. Right? Oh, okay. It's 70. Never mind. Let me shut up. Let me just shut up. So this is mid. This is also mid for targets. Higher than mid for routes run. It's a little bit mid there for receptions, receiving yards, 46th, 42nd. Again, this is out of 70. In receiving touchdowns, he only has 1. So that I think those are good to kind of show you where they rely. He is 36th in drops, so he's 2 drops as opposed to Brian Thomas's 5 drops. He is 17th in yards after catch per reception. So those are some low or to medium targets. There you go, you have a jumping there. Now passer rating when targeted 73.6, but I mean it is T-Law throwing the ball. And then average depth of target is actually 8.1, which is 61st. So they don't even target him deep down the field. They're giving him Dylan Gabriel throws to someone like Travis Hunter, who's making amazing balls or amazing plays down the field. Oh, I didn't get to see the cornerback. Oh, they didn't have it. But I am going to show you this specific thing right here. And again, this is going to make a lot of fantasy people happy. Travis Hunter scored a season high 24.1 PPR points in week 7. If we see a post-bye bump and he continues to improving at a reasonable rate, we could see him scoring 100 plus fantasy points per game by late December, which that sounds absurd, but you can kind of see the yeah, I know, kind of how we should go. So we go here, we wave, and then obviously from 6 to 7, 7 is his biggest a game to date. So you would hope that things kind of swing and kind of keep things going. Or sorry, are we here, right? So yeah, okay. So we're this is what we're projected. So we're here, and then we're gonna project here. So maybe if everything goes right, he'll be the darling in all fantasy world. And this is from The Athletic. So this is a rival NFL exec to Mike Sando and Travis Hunter. It says there is not one trait other than ball skills that makes him different on offense to reach his highest level. He is going to be in one spot, and it's going to be corner. So for as much as a lot of people are seeing the fantasy numbers and seeing the depth of target numbers and seeing all these other situations, there are still people who are banging the drum of he is a cornerback, he's a cornerback. So I have to ask you, comment down below, just one of 3 things. Just put both cornerback or wide receiver right now. Which one do you think Travis Hunter should stick with? Now, before we get out of here, I do want to talk about this. Travis Hunter is the only Jaguars wide receiver who doesn't have a drop rate north of 10% this season. Brenton Strange is the only tight end. Drops aren't sticky, can be noisy, overemphasized, etc. But there's no question this team has been bitten extra hard by them. So in a world where people are dropping, like this is the difference with Travis Hunter. So when we talk about busts and this and that, like I want to make sure everybody's in these stats. I want to make sure that in all of the NFL level, right, all these NFL level receivers, right, only 10 less targets than Brian Thomas Jr., nearly or more than half the amount of drops, right? He has 10 less, more than half the amount of drops. Hey, Travis Hunter is taking over. And you're going to have to let him take over both sides because he's one of the best players you got. So once the Jaguars embrace that, I think they sadly, because this Texans helmet on my head right here, sadly, that means they probably can win the AFC South. Because them Danny Dimes boys is rolling. But y'all let me know how y'all feel below. Remember to comment down below what you think he should do. Like this video if you like it, dislike if you don't. Subscribe if you like football content of all shapes, sizes, forms, passions, and factors. Continue to be great. And we will see you next time. Peace.